Hello, and we are back with WM Weikart to talk about Soul to Squeeze, his new movie. First off, let's just say, where can folks find this movie? How can they find it?
For free, it's on Tubi. Um, as of when this is published, I'm not sure. There's certain indications it could be on other streamers. It's definitely in the US on Amazon for buy or rent, and in a host of European countries for watch with ads, I believe, and subscription. So,
Okay, I think Tubi is a probably a good destination for anybody to check it out. Tubi's really done wonders for getting independent films noticed or distributed or just available to anybody. So we like Tubi. I describe the movie as, sort of a surrealist psychological deep dive character study. Do you have a description of it prepared that you pitch to people who haven't seen it?
um, yeah, it gets very nebulous doing that, and I don't want to cop out, but there's various quotes from directors. Um, Even what was it, True Romance? The story is the director was trying to pitch Gary Oldman for the role, and he's like, "Well, what's it about?" And it's a pretty, I mean, the log line should be pretty simple compared to a lot of other films. And he's like, "I'm not the one, I'm not good at that," but he started talking about the character. So, but I can tell you, it's a troubled guy who, for Soul to Squeeze, it's a troubled guy who doesn't want to do talk therapy because it would have to, confront the source of his pain. So he thinks he's going to slide by with, this kind of treatment over the weekend or over whatever, even though it seems risky or whatever, he's he'd rather take on the risk than talk about, something he feels immense guilt over. But the house kind of, maybe doesn't do it how he thinks. Well, yeah, it has, it's not it has its own ideas about how this is accomplished. So,
Yeah, so I guess the idea is it's um your nebulous is correct because it's not really clear, but it's some kind of experimental procedure that somehow involves a house, and the house, is the like the laboratory where he's able to access his subconscious. Now, the idea of a house representing a mind is a kind of a long-standing one in literature. Freud really talked about it. I think maybe the most famous example would be Fall of the House of Usher, where the house represents the guy's disordered and crumbling mind. And Guy Madden did Keyhole, where he very explicitly made the house the symbol of the character's mind. Was there any sort of forebear like that you were thinking of when you set this in a house, or was it just an easy thing to do?
I mean, it became the source of it was practicality
Mhm.
because we shot over COVID, and I felt like I needed to direct a feature. Finally, I felt like through all the shorts and everything I'd done prior, proof of concepts, pilot, whatever, that I felt comfortable in piloting or captaining a whole feature film that, I could honestly say I could, from beginning to finish, I would have the capabilities to direct it, which is very difficult to direct even a short, especially, the first few ones. So we did that, and basically just a few scenes just poured out of my head, and that's where it kind of originated, and things just like it's like a discovery more than it is an imaginative thing. So where it was sourced, I'm not sure because I when I'm creating or writing or thinking, oftentimes I'm kind of detached and kind of just sitting as if I'm sitting in a theater, or if I am the reader or whatever. And it just seems like the events are happening as they would. So that's sort of, and I had a great co-writer who also was the producer, executive producer, Andrew Rivas. So we just ping stuff back and forth. Any type of illusionary or literary references, I'm sure, are contained because I viewed the film later, and because it took 4 years to really make,
Mm.
I would see, oh wow, that was from this or that, but not being totally conscious of it while it was being created. So
Okay, Giles, do you have some questions?
Sure. Yeah. One thing I observed when I did my write-up for this after I saw it is, obviously the house is all we see pretty much. There's like one, brief scene and maybe a couple metaphorical scenes even within the metaphor. But the other thing that is pretty much always there is this fascinating documentary. And I was hoping you might be able to talk about the documentary, where you found it, and whether it sort of fit nicely into the movie as you were developing it, or if it was part of the inspiration, because what the documentary talks about is certainly instrumental to the title you've chosen.
yeah,
So,
it's, if nothing else, if you watch this, you will have a very you have a very good idea of how your eyes work, if nothing else. In fact, you could just skip through the film and just anytime you see a white, creepy 1940s, 50s documentary, and you'll have pretty quickly a good idea of the anatomy of the eye and how it works. Because it's very, I like that documentary. So we had started watching. What had happened is we'd written, scenes of the film, had a loose plot developed, just kind of understood where we were going in every act of it. And I'd come across some stuff, probably reading on Reddit or something, like here's a good resource for, stock footage, and here's what you do to know it's like truly um, uh, public domain. And so I watched it and I'm like, hey, this kind of makes sense because we initially had him just starting out on the porch, and I was like, that's kind of boring cliche. I've seen like 50,000 shorts that have that, and it's just, and I'm like, I don't know how to make that really, interesting. So I watched Cocoon, and I was like, they packed the theme and the curiosity of the character because the opening of Cocoon, was Wilford Brimley, is that, or not Wilford Brimley, the other kind of the guy with the mustache that sold diabetes
Yeah.
stuff.
yeah, it's
Um,
Wilford Brimley who's in that. Yeah.
yeah, there you go. Anyway, so it opens up with the main character looking through a telescope as a kid, and it shows this wonder. So the whole theme's like packed into the thing. So I'm like, the eye video sort of is what he's lacking, the vision wise. And then also the screen starts from a 4:3 and then ever slowly by the end of it expands out to a 2:3:5, which was another initial idea. So I'm like, yeah, it's about vision, expansion, focusing. And so the understanding and the relationship between our physical sight and our um, psychological vision corresponded really well together. So that's how that came. That's how that came to be.
Excellent. Yeah, because it's a fascinating documentary, and yeah, so you're yeah, I'll admit here that my first reaction when I had just finished watching Soul to Squeeze was like, huh, okay, because I knew it kept my interest, and I knew there were a number of things going on, but it stuck with me for several days afterwards, as I had my own little revelations about what was happening here. And I like your yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the 4:3 framing into the 2.35 as in keeping with another of the metaphors here. Because I felt a very important part of the character, since he didn't want to do talk therapy, as you mentioned just now, opted for this, what I describe as a rather unkind house, um, which I felt was very much in keeping with how he is at the start of the movie, because he's just this ball of tension and fury. that is, barely contained, and the house enjoys perhaps a little too much just poking at the emotions that he has been suppressing. And speaking of, yeah, this, yeah, I guess this is as good a time as any to inquire after the casting for this, because let me just look up his name here. So, Michael Thomas Santos. When it's not the Eye documentary, he's on screen. I wonder if you might talk about how either you found him or he came to mind as a possibility for this kind of like one man show here.
Well, it was so we didn't have it's not a SAG film, so and we're in Los Angeles. So finding a great actor who's not non-SAG, it's very difficult because if you're here long enough and you're great, you're going to find a reason to be in SAG. There, it's going to be offered up to you really quickly. And luckily, so I went through about 800, I think, candidates, made a short list on just backstage, sent those over to Andrew, and there were maybe like three or four. And so there were it fit the age group. And so we went through auditions like on Zoom, like and, I had a scene written and gave them all a bite at it, a few bites actually. And Andrew was like, we got to have Michael look at him. And he was good because we were fortunate because he'd just come out of like, I believe, school in New York. So he was, ready and he dedicated. He quit his job. He lost a bit of weight through the film a little bit to like give this kind of more maturity, like physicality, because it's a maturity film maturity. I don't know how you pronounce that, but like he also, what was insane is he had to lose weight and then towards the middle of the production. So the shooting schedule ended in the middle of production. Then he had all the stuff we couldn't get while he was losing weight, all the scenes he had to pick up and then gain weight slowly. So as far as dedication goes, I mean, we couldn't have asked for more so from him. And I think he did an outstanding job of depicting Jacob. So
Definitely. So, yeah, now you mentioned this was about 4 years in production. Um, Maybe you can talk about. I imagine there were any number of challenges, which is, how it ended up being a 4 year production. Can you think of perhaps any way that you may have gained something interesting that you otherwise, might have, missed if this hadn't been such a long gestating project, or not gestating, but long,
yeah, I
formulation.
mean, so yeah, I was in post for yeah, we shot it really quickly over the summer of 2021. But it ended up in this sort of limbo state. And it was just very difficult because there are special effects in it. And what it did is it gave us time for lots of feedback um, to pick up things that we didn't get on the first round, of course. And for me, as like nothing's happening, so I relook at it or rewatch it, and I'm like, oh shit, that's not, we can make that better. And then kind of understanding that obviously editing, I wasn't the main editor, but I did edit it like four times and some in some capacity. So it gave me that ability to work out shots in my head and how they're going to cut together, which I utilize with storyboards already before that and very thoughtful, even animatic or shooting before we shoot type things. But yeah, it chiseled that a bit, and it it's very difficult to do. And so, I mean, I guess that's it. I mean, I was devastated throughout the whole thing. So, because you just want it to be finished, but not to be great and finished at this, and it's just it's not your typical story unless you have money around you and you have everyone's being paid well. So there's a lot of attention being in one big spurt. Where this, it was a slow roll through the whole thing. And yes, it's a frustrating, and it takes a lot of help. And it took a lot of individuals giving me resources, especially when they saw how dire I felt everything was. So
I forgot to put the still up a little bit earlier, so you guys can see the still now.
Hmm.
This is the how would you, is this like the cover image is this a shot from the film or is this something that was made specially to promote it, this image?
It's in the film,
Okay.
but it's altered, of course. So, yeah. I mean, yeah. What's your take on it?
Well, I didn't think I remembered it exactly from the film, although it seems like something that could be certainly in the film. Giles, would you like to describe this with your wonderful sensibility there?
All right. Well, yes, yes. This is a young fellow. Um, he's got a collared top on, which I happen to know is the top part of a set of pajamas there. And what we see him sort of shoulders up with hands are squeezing his cheeks together, which with the whiteness of his teeth, kind of almost makes it look like there's a third eye thing going on to match the whiteness of the eyes above that are looking somewhat above us with apprehensive wonderment, perhaps I'll say, but it's probably my opinion there, or at least word choice, is influenced by what's going on with the fellow's curly hair because it's kind of erupting in a psychedelic series of waves of all kinds of, greens, oranges, pinks, purples, and so on that is bursting forth from his curly locks there. So he is emitting something worth seeing while simultaneously sporting an expression that he is seeing something that we can't see that is definitely worth seeing as well.
And that, of course, is the
That
film's
is,
lead, Mr. Santos.
yes, character name Jacob Stafford, which last name at least reminds me of, I want to say, oh, some famous experiment, maybe a Stanford one,
Hmm.
um, which it could just be a coincidence, maybe not. Is it just a coincidence that I'm reminded of a Stanford experiment that involved being locked away somewhere?
And abused? Could be. But I'm honored that, I got your expert breakdown. So thank you for that. I feel actualized as a human being. So
Well, I have a question that may be a little of a silly one, but the title. Apparently, the title shares the title with a song, which I wasn't familiar with before that until I started to search on Google for your movie, and references to the song came up. So, what is the significance of the title, as far as you can tell us, without doing any spoilers or anything?
I it just the phrase felt right. We tried other alternate titles, even going as far as when the title card comes up in the film, trying alternate titles, the exact same lead in and seeing how it felt. And Soul to Squeeze is what we called it in production, pre-production, production, and we were always open for changing the name, but it seemed right because, at the core of the soul, and he's definitely being there's a lot of pressure throughout the film.
Mhm.
And then it corresponded also with the anatomy of the eye video about pressure being what puts things into focus for our eye when something's out of focus. We have this natural reaction that squeezes the eye ever so precisely so we can see things as they are. So that's where the title like comes from.
Okay, so it is not a reference to the song.
The song is great. The video
I
is great. It has Chris Farley in it, and at a carnival.
Yeah,
So
listening to the song, I didn't see the connection. So there not being a connection makes sense. Giles, you got another question?
Oh, yeah, I was just looking up to see what you were talking about because I'm not familiar with not that familiar with the band in question. So yes, this is me learning something new here, and yeah, getting back to Weikart's remark there is like, oh yeah, so as a title you just sort of came across it, yeah, it did seem perfect with the whole aqueous humor thing that I now know about because of your documentary. I mean, because of the documentary and your narrative film there has kept me fascinated, interested there. Yeah, the presence of the pajamas here. This is maybe getting a little too specific into. I can't imagine it's really much of a spoiler territory, but the inspiration for the we'll say prisoner outfit for this fella because he's essentially trapped in there. Within the first few minutes, we hear the doors lock, and oh, he can't get out, and oh, he has this three types of uniform laid before him. I wonder if you might talk about that a little bit, please.
I mean, within filmmaking, there's always, even in the most, I guess, unassuming, unartistic, like, stamped, um, classics, they're always metaphorically costumed in some way or character. At least there's several layers, even I mean, something as very um gritty as, I don't know, Panic in Needle Park. There's the costuming is, if you really dig deep, it's not just, oh, they look good in that, or oh, they would be wearing that. There's some thought put into it. So obviously with a film like this, it's necessitates a lot of decision making. That's so yes, it tonally, and his mood and where he's at and his character arc definitely, I would say, is the obvious answer for his costuming. And I don't want to dive too much deeper because it's, interpretive. I'm noticing and interpreting it different, and everyone just has their own idea about it. But if you notice, he's wearing a pink shirt at the beginning. That's his skin. He can't stand his own skin. And throughout, he's losing pieces of clothing through um his own character defects, which is what he's there to treat. He's, so yeah, he's being put into a what the house provides him, and he doesn't seem too keen on their choices, but I like how you related that to being in a ward of some kind.
Yeah, it's I liked it. Yeah, these this outfit is actually I'll admit something here. I don't have the vibrant colors myself, but I do have pajamas that are the exact same design as my. When I'm
Yeah.
not sitting around in a bow tie, kind of moments
I
there. So,
assume you're like that most of the time, right?
oh yeah, certainly out and about. It's
Well,
uh,
actually, when we're not on the air, Giles just wears a bathrobe, and when I'm not on the air, I wear a bow tie all the time.
Nice,
That-
sweet, nice.
We did
Wow.
that switch around specifically for you.
it's exactly Greg. That's definitely true there. So you have Soul to Squeeze. That's out and about. I don't think it's too early to inquire. You said this was a sort of painful experience, but it sounds like you learned a lot. Would it be too forward to inquire whether you got some plans for future things, or are you still just kind of working through this Soul to Squeeze phenomenon?
The Yeah, we're in production of my second feature. We have a working title called Something Strange, because so it may qualify for this, you guys, again. And that actually is based on the name of this title. I was like, I want the title to be obvious with the viewer going in, so it's not a nebulous, like, what is this film about? So I was like, well, let's just do that. That's a working title. But yeah, I'm working with it's another kind of character piece, but we're outside this time a lot. And his name's Jeremy Gladen. He's a fantastic actor, and we've got some great supporting stuff coming in, and we're in, production of that. Like right now, I'm like designing a costume for a character before and after this. So really excited about that film.
Oh, that's excellent.
Well,
And it's going to be. Oh,
since we talked about what's coming up in the future, can we go back and talk about what you did before your feature? Because there were like two people that you worked with, or one person especially that you worked with previously that I think is a very interesting collaboration in your previous shorts.
Which person is that? There's a few of them.
Well, how many did there's like, I'm thinking music videos, I think. I believe it's a music video. Well, for one, you did a music video for a band that has, that I'm not familiar with, but I know the lead singer of it from another band he was in that was Adrian Belew. Um, and I wasn't familiar with this band, but I think the more interesting one was Daniel Johnson.
Yes, yeah. I when I moved to Los Angeles, I sent out an email to the family of Daniel Johnston, pitching myself as a director for his biopic. There'd been some false starts on his biopic over the years. The relevance after the Devil and Daniel Johnston documentary created a lot of interest. And so when I saw that, I, bought tapes and stuff, had them mailed to me from the mail order, and I'm love his music. Like as it is, everyone that I know, save for a few people, prefer like the covers are like, yeah, they're great songwriting, but and melodies but I prefer his versions. I like that he just did it. I feel the energy that's like I don't give a shit.
Mm,
Um, this is true and it's great. And that's the way he felt about his music, and he was right. So I, want, but they were like, we're directing a feature because there were like people attached before and they've gone through different, the, attachments of, even Jack Black was interested. So they're like, how about a short for right now? And so they went through all of his artwork because he was a prolific artist. In fact, that later on that kind of supported his life. And so I went through every painting he had ever done that I had access to. They gave me his archives, and then they'd found this recording where he was like obsessed with yellow and going on his one of his rants and so I'm like, I just went through and found corresponding things, and they animated a few of them to this piece he had done. So I'm still a big fan of Daniel Johnston, and he's lovely. And the other music video was a New Originals band, and Dave Brandwine, or Brandwine, sorry. He hates it when I mispronounce his last name. I'm Weikart, so I get some liberty. But he had those three artists featured um on his song. So I directed that music video. So yeah, I do a little bit of music stuff outside of this as well because that's pure art. I like to do artistic stuff.
mhm.
So,
If anybody doesn't know who Daniel Johnson is, I definitely recommend checking him out. Um, let's say he's an acquired taste. He is an outsider musician, pretty much. Self-taught. He has a great backstory, and his music is rough around the edges, but there's something in it that pulls you in. It's very creative. Every now and then he comes up with there are these very surreal stream of conscious lyrics, and every now and then he comes up with something that just blows you away. He's very interesting to dig into, but he's not your conventional, pretty sounding singer. So anyway, Giles, do you have some more
Oh,
questions? Or
no, certainly nothing as interesting to follow up the illustrious Daniel Johnson, whom I had not heard of before 5 minutes ago when you started on this. So I definitely am looking forward to seeing what that is because I do like outsider musicians are at the very worst interesting to listen to, even if they're not, you know, well, almost especially if they're not radio friendly. But yeah, so that's yeah, because I noticed you got other music videos and other shorts, and you've this new project. Are you working with any of the gang from Soul to Squeeze?
um, so I'm not sure. I know that I should have an easy answer for that, but it's the nature of the production is a bit I won't say unconventional, but it's being tethered together by this idea of time, memory, and the state of being when we're in a memory and where are we truly at. So I'm adding it's sort of follows the format of Soul to Squeeze, and that there's a main character who confronts a number of different characters. So that's what I'm don't know if there's going to be any of the actors in Soul to Squeeze. We're using some of the actors that have been in my shorts or otherwise currently, and some new people too. So I'm really excited about it.
That's fantastic. That yeah, I think and any further questions would just be me perhaps picking your brain about specific spoiler kinds of things. So we'll spare our listeners that because I'm going to guess many people listening to this won't have seen it yet. Though I think you can infer from my review that I do consider it a film worth watching and will keep your interest and educate you and stayed on my mind for a good while after the fact. So yeah, anything that would just be a deep dive into why did you do this specific thing. Greg, do you have any broader
Well,
questions?
it is sort of a difficult movie to discuss without getting into spoilers, I think. I think this would not be too spoilery, to say that what we've got is a troubled protagonist, and he's going through a self, not a self, but a psychoanalysis that it is a self psychoanalysis, I guess, in the end. And he's going to uncover something that's going to be narratively meaningful. It's not just a complete, as you would say, nebulous. There is a root cause that we're going to. Is that fair? Am I not? I'm not spoiling too much there, am I?
I mean, the I I have an appreciation towards films of directors that kind of just throw stuff together, but and then interpret this, or it's an expression, or you're pushing it on a different plane than just a plot, I guess. That it's experience, you're experiencing what's going on. For this, I felt, or just for me as a director, even when I explore those areas, I do like it tied to a plot, a theme, at least one theme, and um some kind of motivation that's within the story itself. Sort of like we were talking about altered states. There's all these flashes juxtaposed imagery, religious imagery, images from his life of the character, but it's tied to the exploration and experimental nature of his character. So that's sort of the idea, is it's not just a mishmash of what I like to edit together to freak people
Yeah.
out. So,
Yeah, I
Well,
guess yeah, if I might just cut in briefly here, because I understand what Greg said, and I understand what Weikart is saying, because I've seen this. I don't think I'm out of turn saying that there is a grief incident that
mhm.
this character is going through, which is the catalyst for this journey he takes in isolation with his mind here. So that plot point, I think, is sort of, if not explicitly stated, certainly hinted at quite heavily within the first, the
Yeah.
opening bit of stuff. Because yeah, there's this. There's a reason he's very angry all the time, and anger is just one of the ways he could be dealing with this. And he knows it's the wrong way to deal with it, but doesn't know anything else how to.
Yeah, I mean, it's guilt and pain. That's
Hmm.
that causes a lot of issues, I think, in especially those in their 20s that haven't, you know, had the time to really get to the point to where this is even an option for them. Everyone wants to hang on to their even self illusion that everything's all right.
Mm.
It takes time to mature to get to a point to where you want to mature further, for everyone if they're dealing with especially guilt. So that's definitely true for this character.
okay. Well, we have about 3 to 4 minutes left. So, Giles, do you want to throw out the final question?
Sure. All right. Well, it's final question we'd like to ask all of our interviewees. Can you tell us your hometown and can you recommend a restaurant there?
I don't have a hometown.
Oh, okay.
I moved around, but I'll say I would say the one I could call home is the closest where I lived the longest is I can't. It's but I'll just say one, Marysville, Ohio. I all the restaurants they tore them down.
Oh, boo.
I will say a pizza place probably because it's the easiest, and that would be Benny's Pizza. Um, and yes, I would say that if you're actually in that area, that's probably the place to go.
And still standing?
It is still standing. In fact, it's gotten bigger. I think that's the thing that's swallowing
Oh,
up.
is it? It's eating up the rest of the. Okay.
Yeah, they have live music, and it's almost garish at this point. So it's great though. The pizza is great. So thank you.
That's what matters. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, I suppose that does it. We've been talking to W.M. Weikart about his film Soul to Squeeze, and I don't think we spoiled it too much. Available on Tubi or Amazon Prime, or not Prime, but Amazon. You can rent it if you'd like to see more money go his way, I think. That's that. And we will be back next week with a Halloween episode, which will air on Halloween. You can see this, and we've told you where to go see Soul to Squeeze. So I think we've done everything. Like, subscribe, buy the book, and so forth. Thank you for coming on, WM.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Thanks,
And
everybody.
yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye bye, everybody.
Cheers.